G'day ladies and gentlemen, my name is Cody, and today I'm going to be walking you through on how to create a character for 3D games and animation. So in this video we're going to be modeling the character Kirby from the Kirby franchise. So the first thing that I noticed when analyzing a lot of the models from the Kirby games is that Kirby is actually separated into different kinds of models based on what he's currently doing. So there's a lot of models based on, whether he has an enemy in his mouth, whether he's inflated, whether he's sucking in an enemy, or if he's just walking around. So in this video, I'm going to be making the model for when he's kind of just walking around, just to give you a good understanding on the modeling concepts that we use when making models for games and animation. So in this video, I'm just going to be walking through how to actually model this character. In the next video, I'll walk through on how to texture and UV unwrap this model. In the video after that, I'll walk through on how to actually rig this model. And then finally, in the last part, I'll go through on how to actually animate with this model. So let's get it started. So the first thing we want to do is we want to select our default cube here. So the first thing you may think is, well, Kirby's a roundish character, so delete the cube and get something like a UV sphere or an icosphere. But that's actually not going to be the case. What we want to do is we actually want to bring up our cube. By the way, I have screencast keys on, so that way you can see what keys I'm pressing as I go through this. I'm trying to explain this as I go. Let me know if I'm going a bit too fast for you guys, and I'll keep that in mind when making the next few videos. I'll try to go slowly and explain what it is that I'm doing, but just in case I'm going a bit fast for you guys, just give me a heads up and I'll try to fix that. So yeah, so we want to start off with this cube. And what we want to do from here is we want to go to this modifier properties tab and just click on the add modifier. And we want to select subdivision surface. And the best thing about the way that I'm going to teach you on how to model this character is you can actually make this pretty low poly or pretty high poly based on kind of what your target platform is going to be, whether you want this on something like a console or PC, or you want to make a model for something like mobile, where the processing power is just not quite up to scratch with modern consoles and PC. So for me, I'm going to try and keep this relatively low poly. However, you can go as high or low as you want. Just make sure that your computer can handle it. So for me, I'm going to just bump this up to 2 subdivisions. So I'm just going to numpad 1, numpad 5 to go into front orthographic view. And you may have a look and you go, well, this is now a sphere, but if you actually look closely, it's just not quite spherical. It's probably easier if I turn up the subdivisions a little bit. You can see it's just right around this edge. You can see it's a little bit more curved than up here. So there's a few ways to fix this. So I'm just bringing this back down. So one of the ways to fix this would be you can either apply this subdivision modifier, tab into edit mode, and then if you go down to this little shear item, little shear button, I have mine set to 2 sphere. So you just want to select that, and then when you click and drag on this model, you may not see a big difference, but it'll actually make it a little bit more spherical. So if I just Control Z, you can kind of see. Let's try this again. There, so there you go. So you can just kind of see what the difference is between the two. Me personally, I don't really like using this method. I actually like using a second modifier. So I'm just going to go back into the modifier tab and go to cast. It should be default set to sphere, but otherwise you can just select this drop down and select 2 sphere. So you don't really want to change any of these other settings in this case. But you just want to change the factor to 1. And the reason why you want to set this to 1 is because if you go any higher, it kind kind of just warps the model a bit too much. So one's a perfect thing for this. So if you can right click and shade smooth, you can kind of see now it's a little bit more spherical. And the reason why I like doing it like this is, like I was saying, you can actually you can now change this subdivision count, and it just stays spherical. And you don't really need to worry about like shearing it into a sphere all the time. And the best part about doing it like this as well is if I tab back into edit mode, you can see I only have 8 vertices, and I have a pretty high poly sphere. But for me, I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm just gonna go back down to 2 vertices, and that's just because I like to create my models in a more of a mobile environment. Just because I like to have my games run on as many platforms as I can. Most of the detail my models comes from the materials and the texturing anyway. So I think this should be fine. Like I said before, you can make this model as high poly as you want. For me, I'm going to try and keep it to something like this. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make his feet. So you just want to drag this up on the Z axis. So you can do that either by selecting this blue arrow and dragging it up, or you can press G, Z, and that will just bring it up. I like to snap mine to the grid by pressing Control. Because I just like snapping things to the grid. It makes it a little bit more neat for me, a little bit weird like that. But it doesn't really matter, just as long as you bring it up just a little bit. So then now we want to make his feet. So for me, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to hide this model. I just hide it with H. I just want to bring a new model, so just Shift A to bring up the thing. To create a cube. For me, I'm actually going to tap into edit mode and drag this one up so that the origin point is right at the bottom. So again, just pressing Control and just snapping it up on the G axis onto the grid. So that way, right at the very bottom, it's right on this red horizontal line. So we just want to add a subdivision surface modifier. And I think that'll be fine. I think. So just tapping into edit mode, what we want to do is you just kind of want to go numpad 7 to go into top view. I think you want to press S to scale, press X to scale on the X axis. Just kind of want to just bring it in just a little bit. Pressing numpad 3, we just want to go into side view. So just pressing Z. Then going into wireframe mode. I just want to press B and just drag and click to select these top vertices, and just want to drag it down. For me, again, Control, because I like to make it about the halfway point like that. I'm just going to turn off this optimal so I can see the vertices. So for me, it's not bad, but I think we can add a little bit more shape to this. So going back into top view with numpad 7, just press Control R, and that'll bring up this loop cut tool. I just want to snap it just kind of right in the middle. Just keep it like that. So just selecting these front 2 vertices, kind of going back into side view, and then just trying to drag it down to shape it just a little bit. So that way you get like this nice curve as it kind of goes up to the top of the foot. Doing this, now you just kind of want to select the entire front face and just kind of scale it in just a little bit. And what that'll do is from the top you can kind of see as it kind of curves in. So doing that till we get like a nice almost point in the front of the foot. And I think that's looking pretty good. Maybe just scale the back end on the x-axis just a little bit as well. Just give it a little bit more shape, I think. And then you just kind of want to scale the top in. And I think that's a nice little foot that we have. And then again, like I said, you can kind of bring up the subdivisions and bring it down. For me, I'm going to keep the subdivisions at 1 because it's going to be smaller than the body, and I kind of want the scale of and the distance between the vertices to kind of remain relatively consistent throughout the whole model. So right click into shade smooth. We can have another quick look around. For me, I think I'm going to try and make the bottom of the foot just a little bit flatter. So there's a few ways to do this. One of the most common ways that you'll see taught is to add another edge loop with Control R, and then just kind of dragging that down to the bottom. Personally, I don't really like using this method. It's definitely very useful. However, for me, considering I like to try and keep my poly count pretty low, for me, I just kind of find this adds a little too many unnecessary vertices. So what I like to do is I just like to press 2. That'll bring it into this edge select mode up here. So I'll probably explain that right now. So pressing 1 will go into vertex mode. Why is that? Yeah. So 1 will go into vertice mode, 2 will go to edge mode, and 3 will go to face mode. So that's just a good way to quickly tab between the two, or quickly switch between the two, sorry. So just pressing 2. I don't know if this will work or not, but there's a way that you can select all the edges. So I'm going to press Alt and click. Okay, so that didn't really work. But most of the time, if you can Alt click and select the entire circle of vertices. For me, I'm just going to go in and just manually select them all this time. Let's back to front facing view. I'm going to press N to bring up this little menu. Going up to the top, you just want to go to item, and just go down to mean crease. You just kind of want to just drag this, and as you can see, it kind of brings this feet kind of back down. So for me, I like to keep mine kind of around something like a 0.3, I think, or actually bring it up just a little bit. We'll go 0.4. So now the bottom of the foot's a little bit flatter, but it still has like a nice little curve to it. So I'm just gonna bring back my body. So having a look, this foot is definitely a bit too big for this body. So I'm gonna just tab back into edit mode. I'm just gonna scale it down just a little bit. Scaling it down like this, it's not great because you kind of want to have the bottom of the foot sit on this red line. So Control Z back into that. And what you can do is you can actually press the full stop button or the point button. I don't really know what you guys would call that, but I call it the full stop key. I'm going to go into 3D cursor. And what that'll do is that'll actually set the scaling point to this 3D cursor here. So now when I try to go to scale it, it'll scale from the bottom of the foot. So just zooming back out a little bit so I can get a better look. I want to kind of keep this kind of about, I think that's about good. So let's just have a look from the side. Yeah, it's pretty good. So now I'm just going to try to side view, just kind of bring us forward a little bit. And drag this out to the side a little bit. So you may be wondering why I'm not using something like a mirror modifier. And that's just because I like to try and keep all my body parts separate. Just kind of gives me a little bit more control over things. You can absolutely use a mirror modifier. Actually, I'll quickly go through how to do that one now. So just with this, with your foot in the middle still, just bring out this mirror modifier, tap into edit mode, and you kind of drag it out. You get something like that, and then you have 2 feet. So that's how you would use the mirror modifier. But I don't really like doing it like that, so I'm just gonna go back, and then I'm just gonna kind of drag my foot out. So I like it about there. So I think now's probably about time that to make sure that we know what everything is, probably a good time to start naming all our stuff. So I'm going to name this foot, foot dot left. The reason why, even though this is on the right side, I'm naming it left because I kind of everything's kind of named from the perspective of the model. So if this is going to be the front of the model, we kind of want to think like this is going to be the back then, and suddenly this is the left side. So you're just going to do the same thing with the body and just rename it to body. So selecting this foot again, again, just make sure that you have this set to the 3D cursor. So just with this little period key or full stop key, just make sure it's set to 3D cursor for this part. Otherwise, you're going to have a few issues. So you just want to go Shift D, and that'll duplicate this foot. So with this duplicated, you just want to right click, and what that'll do is that'll just set that back to its origin point. So as you can see, this is my duplicated foot. I'm just going to Control Z back to there. So now you're going to go Control M to mirror it, and just press X to mirror it on the X-axis. So as you can see now, and this is why I like doing it like this, is now I have two separate feet an equal distance apart. And now I'm just going to rename this foot dot R. And now I just want to apply the scale. So I'm just going to go Control A, scale. What I'm going to do is, this may look fine, but I'm actually going to go backface culling, and you can see that something's kind of a bit off here. So the way to fix this is to just go to Tab into Edit Mode, and there are a few ways, and I'll quickly show you how to do them. So you can either go Shift N, and what that'll do is that'll kind of automatically try to recalculate the normals of this model outside, or you can go Alt N. And go recalculate outside, and that'll do the same thing. But in this case, and sometimes the recalculate outside doesn't always work, and neither does the Shift N. So sometimes there is a bit of manual tweaking involved. But in my case, I'm just going to go again Alt N, sorry, and then go flip, because everything is going to be outside in this case. So now I have a complete set of feet, and this is kind of 90% of Kirby. I mean, what is he but a ball with 2 feet and 2 arms, So now we're going to move on to the arms. So with the arms, we're going to bring back our good friend the cube, and then our favorite modifier, the subdivision surface. And I think we can keep this one at 1 again. And then we just kind of want to, so there's a few ways that we can do this, and the best part about dragging this via and like stepping it to the grid is we can do the same thing with this cube. And what that will actually do is it kind of has this like maintain and the exact center of our body. So then we just kind of drag it back out. I kind of want mine, I think about there for now. Pressing the period key or the full stop key again, just go back to median point, and that'll reset our scaling point back to the center of this object. So I'm just going to scale this down just a little bit, I think. It's probably a good size for now, I think. So then you just want to, again, scale, but then we want to press X. And what that does is that'll scale it on the X-axis a bit. So getting about there, I think, what we can do is we can now tab into edit mode and go Control R, and that'll bring up this edge loop again. And the reason why we want to bring that up is because now we want to have a little bit more control over shaping this arm. So I'm just going to scale this down a little bit, make it a little bit more pointy. And then so kind of bring it in, because Kirby has little nubbly arms. So if we turn this off, and so normally what I would probably do is I would, delete this inside face, because we're never really going to see it. But in this case, I'm not actually going to delete it, just because we're going to start rotating. Actually, I'll give an example. So I'm just going to, don't worry about what I'm doing right now. This is going to be for an example of like why I want to keep this inside face. So with this arm, like say we're going to start rotating this arm in an animation, like we kind of want to have it come up and down. But we don't really want this inside face to show up at any point. So now if I just do this and go back to, back to the median points. If I rotate this arm, like we don't really want this bottom kind of sticking out. But if that ever does happen, we don't want to see the inside of the model at any point. So just keeping this this inside face closed is just good practice, so that way when animating we never see the inside of the model. So I'm pretty happy with that, I think. Actually, I think I may scale it up just a little bit, and then scale these feet down. So one thing is, again, selecting these feet, pressing the period of the full stop key again. What we can do is actually set this to individual origins. So now when we scale, it actually scales them individually rather than, because if we set this to median point, it actually scales it kind of from the center of both of them. So we set to individual origins and just kind of scale these down just a little bit. Then selecting these two together, we just drag it down. And I think this is getting there. This is getting pretty good. So doing the same thing that we did with duplicating the feet. Actually, first off, we want to name this. So arm.l. So again, full stop key or period key, set it to 3D cursor. So even though this 3D cursor is still technically centered, I'm just going to go I'm going to go Shift C, and that'll just recenter it to the very center of the world, or the very center of the Blender scene. So then again, just go Shift D to duplicate this arm, right clicking to snap it back in, Control M, and then press X, and that'll mirror it on the X-axis again. And then you just want to rename it to arm.r, applying the scale. We get this little issue with the normals again. So tapping into edit mode, Alt N, and then flip. And that should be the entire modeling process of this character done. So in some Kirby games, or in most Kirby games actually, stuff like his mouth would be handled with a different model. So like when his mouth opens, they kind of just swap models to something else. When he's inflated, they have a separate model. So in this case, I'm pretty happy with the way that we've done this for now. So if at any point I've gone too fast, let me know in the comments, and I'll try to address that in the next part. I'll try to slow it down just a little bit. Luckily, we'll be doing the texturing and the UV unwrapping, so it's going to be a little bit more technical. So I'm going to have to slow down just a little bit for that. But if you're struggling with any part of this, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I'll do my best to try and clarify points, and feel free to just rewatch parts. I have screencast keys on, so you can kind of follow along with what I was doing. But that should be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If I've gone too fast for you guys, please let me know in the comments, and I'll do my best to try and slow down. In the next part, we'll be going through on how to UV unwrap and texture this model. So I'll see you then, and I hope you guys have a good day.